I really like the detective work that goes along with history and the long shot that occasionally pays off big time. I'm often asking the question, how do we know that we really know this, And I find out often we don't. So the people who would become Acadians came mainly from southwest France. They moved to what's now Nova Scotia and its environs. That's when they became Acadians. And they were there for generations before they were kicked out. About 3,000 made their way to Louisiana. And as soon as they got here, they began intermarrying with the people who were already here. And that's really where the Cajuns and the Creoles came from. I should say that's where the Cajuns came from. The Creoles were already here.
Creole, for me and for many of my colleagues, means heritage. It incorporates African heritage, influenced by a lot of French, Spanish, and even the Indians of this area. And then we have many tribes in this area as well. So all of those uniting together form what we would consider to be Creole.
Before the Acadians arrived here, starting in 1764-65, there were already French people here. There were already enslaved people here of African descent. There were already Creoles who had been born in South Louisiana before the Acadians showed up. So they weren't the first people to show up here.
The elders, my father, my granduncles, and others, they passed on a lot of knowledge, and that put me as a culture bearer, as a chief. I became chief when I was in my 20s. The Shawnee people come from the Red River, and this was when Louisiana, let's say the 1717. But during all those years, the Shawnee people were being enslaved by the French Acadians that came over from Canada. They were coming down from Canada to trade with indigenous people. Also, they did not have women with them, so they were abducting Shawnee women. They were enslaving the Shawnee, but they also got pushed back from, of course, from their people, from the Apache people. The Shawnee are Lipan Apaches, and they fought back. They ran away when they were brought into lower Louisiana. They ran away into St. Martin Parish and Lafayette. There was a lot of them in St. Martin Parish, where they called that place Prairie Marron. And Prairie Marron was runaway, unlicensed, escape area, or prairie.
There had to have been some way of communicating. So then the French were the ones who brought the slaves here. So they had to find some means or way in which they could actually communicate with one another. So we have the development of a Creole language, the influences of Spanish, as well as the Indians that lived here. So that language was really influenced by many of the people that lived here as well. It's mainly in, I say, the rural areas of Louisiana, of southwest Louisiana, St. Martin Parish especially, St. Landry Parish, where you find a number of individuals speaking Creole. And it wasn't just the slaves, it was also whites that actually spoke the Creole as well.
So Acadian exiles began arriving in 1764 and were granted land along the Teche, Karen Crow, and Vermilion bayous, which were already inhabited by the Takapa, Ishak, and other indigenous peoples. The land that is now Louisiana was colonized by France, passed to Spain, back to France, and ultimately, with the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, became part of the United States. In 1805, Louisiana Governor William Claiborne created the counties of Orleans Territory, including Attakapaw County, which consisted of present-day St. Martin, St. Mary, Vermilion, Lafayette, Iberia, and Acadia parishes. Jean Mouton, a descendant of exiled Acadians and owner of a cotton plantation and enslaved people, donated a portion of his land in 1820 for the establishment of Vermilionville, which became modern-day Lafayette, and for the first permanent church in the area, St. John Cathedral, which sits near downtown Lafayette. In 1823, the Louisiana legislature created Lafayette Parish, named to honor the Marquis de Lafayette, a hero of the American and French Revolutions who was touring the U.S. A legislative charter in 1869 amended the name of the city to Lafayette, but another town near New Orleans was also called Lafayette, which prevented the name from ultimately switching until 1884, when that suburb was incorporated into New Orleans, allowing Vermilionville permanently become Lafayette.
This is a very Catholic area. This is, at one time, the city of Lafayette. Some people said it was the most Catholic city in the country. It was about 78% Catholic. It's a very easy place to be Catholic because of, how many churches and how many priests there are. But the church is very entwined with the people, French languages as well. You can go to French Mass here in a variety of places. So it's not uncommon for people to embrace that part of the culture, here. It's a beautiful culture, and they're beautiful people.
The Cajun phenomenon that started in the 80s was really jump-started by food. And it seems almost odd explanation, but it's there in the media. You can see it. First they discover the food, then they discover the music, then they discover the culture in general.
It's important that we understand what our forefathers, I guess, or either our ancestors have provided for us, what they have sacrificed. They did it because they had to survive, but we're doing it because we want to pay homage to them, and for us to know what our history is all about, and that we won't repeat maybe some of the mistakes that were made, but have an understanding as to how we can move forward, to progress, to develop, and understand what it is that we are trying to reach as far as goals are concerned.
Soleil est ta prise de bête, avec la peine pour toi.